morning, church. Been a great morning so far, amen. God's got so much more for us, and just super excited to be sharing this message with you. Today is one day shy of 6 years ago when I stood here on April 22nd of 2018 and opened up that Sunday like most people weren't expecting that Sunday. That Sunday was my candidation Sunday is what we typically call that. And I opened up with something along the lines that if you came today to hear a message about why you should vote for me, you're going to be highly disappointed. This is my first time preaching in Oklahoma. This might be my last time preaching in Oklahoma. And so I'm just going to go ahead and preach a word. And I preached a word that day called Champions of Faith. And spoiler alert, everything went good that day. So it's amazing that it was 6 years ago today on April 22nd, 2018 that I stood here. And to be honest, that day there wasn't any vision. There was direction that day. Direction for my family that we felt that this was where we needed to be. Obviously, that direction was confirmed by the pastoral search committee and then affirmed by the body. It wasn't until March 24th of 2019, almost 11 months later, that I shared the vision that I believe that God was giving me for this church. And for some people, they're like, wow, that took you long enough. But in that time, I wanted to really press in and seek God. I wanted to hear about some of the things that happened in the years past because there was some tremendous pastors before me at this church. I wanted to connect with the people in the church and just get a little bit more familiar of things. I prayed during that time, fasted for that time, believed for that time, and it was on that March 24, 2019 day that I laid the message that New Life Assembly would be a place to reach, love, and lead people. That vision is still being carried out. Today is about continuing to move forward in that vision. When it comes to embracing vision, especially within church, vision can't fully be embraced without honoring the past. Tremendous history here at New Life Assembly from 1993 when a group of people decided, hey, let's start a church. And then 1996, whenever this building was dedicated, there's been some amazing things that happened. And so understand that anytime that you hear me speak of vision, anytime you hear me speak of the future, I'm not trying to neglect the past. I am standing and honoring that past. At the same time, I believe that Scripture shows us that there's more to be done. That the past is great and things happen, but there's more to be done. And we get a glimpse of this in the 43rd chapter of Isaiah, beginning in verse 14. It says, "This is what the Lord says, your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel. For your sake, I will send to Babylon and bring down as fugitives all the Babylonians in the ships in which they took pride. I am the Lord, your Holy One, Israel's Creator, your King. This is what the Lord says. He who made a way through the sea, a path through the mighty waters, who drew out the chariots and horses, the army and reinforcements together, and lay there never to rise again, extinguished, snuffed out like a wick." God's reminding them of what He did. He says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing, now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." See, there was a previous experience that God's people had as they had the deliverance from Egypt. And as they were delivered from there, and there was all of the trials and tests and everything that happened with God's people there, and they're finally set free, and they finally decide to go, and that's when the parting of the Red Seas happens, and the drowning of the chariots there, and Isaiah is reminding them of it, but yet they are understood to not dwell on that. Now, what this doesn't mean is never talk about it, never think about it, never go back on it, never. That's what it doesn't mean. We really don't have the full capacity like God has to truly forget things, to truly never be reminded of them again. The word from Isaiah here is simply, hey, don't just look at that and say, wow, if we only had that. That was when God really moved. Back then, that's when God really did things. He's saying, yes, you can recall it, but the breakthrough, the deliverance from Babylon is going to be even greater. We cannot experience the great things of God if we're always focused on the former things that God did. It's not going to allow it to happen. It's the same for churches. It's the same for this church. It's the same for every single church that has ever happened. And so today I want to look at what it takes to maintain vision. I know of some pastors and churches, and it seems like every few years there's a new vision coming. And for us, the vision and mission is still the same. We just have to keep it front and center. We just have to keep it on our minds. You know, we just have to know that there's work to still be done. So I want to share with you practical steps that have been taken and will continue to be taken to maintain and communicate vision. Vision will die if it is not maintained and it is not communicated. What do the workers at Chick-fil-A say when you get your order? My pleasure. Right? The funny thing about that is that was something that caught on. Can I tell you that the things that stick are generally the things that are caught, not the things that are taught? Those things that we catch and we're like, oh, that is it. And we want to put that in our spirit. We want to hang on to that, and we catch the vision, and we go, and we continue to tell people about it. That's why we're continually talking to our leadership about embody the vision that God has for this church. We can't have a church vision and a men's vision and a women's vision and a kid's vision and a youth vision and all these other visions, because that's a lot of division. But it's, here's the vision for the church. Find out where men's ministry helps with this vision. Find out where youth ministry helps with this vision. So getting leaders to champion what this vision is. To regularly revisit vision. To regularly revisit vision with leaders. To really refine it. Because in 2019, it was a lot wider than it is now. And 2-3 years from now, it's probably going to be a little bit more refined than what it is today. But that is about being committed to maintaining and sharing sharing what the vision is for us. We've made commitments to teaching and training and getting people to understand and embrace the vision. By the way, for all of you that have been posting on Facebook, the link for new merch will be up in a few days. You say, Pastor, why are you so big on the merch? Because the merch helps to share the vision. As we're wearing the New Life Assembly hats, or we added in New Life Assembly beanies this year as well. As we have on t-shirts, as we have on hoodies, we've added on polos this year. Doug, nothing yet with a shirt pocket. I'm working my way there, brother. I'm working my way there. But why are we doing this? To help the church be like, what's that shirt about? What's that logo mean? And we can be able to really do that. But that only happens as myself and leadership is helping those who call this church home embrace the vision and communicate the vision. It is my job to seek God for the vision. It is my job to declare the vision. It is our job to communicate the vision. Our job together to do that. Practical steps to maintaining and communicating vision, evaluating and adjusting as things go. One way that we look at things in our leadership meetings, we look at this phrase called start, stop, shift. What do we need to start? What do we need to stop? What do we like, but we need to shift it a little bit? Much of that comes out of reach, love, and lead. Many of you know that you have come to me with something like, hey, Pastor, I have an idea for our church. I'm intrigued, but I'm also cautious. I'm cautious for two reasons. The first one is this an idea for our church or is this an idea for me? Because if it's an idea for the church, then you're willing to help carry that out. But secondly, we're going to say, hey, where does this fit in the vision? Is this about reaching people? Is this about loving people? Or is this about leading people? And so that's what we do to evaluate mission. We want to remain committed to new things. We want to remain committed to innovation whenever it comes. Now, we're not going to trade who we are as people of God. We're not going to do any of those things. But we also know, as Scripture talks about, old wineskins and new wineskins. We know that Scripture talks about new creations. And so we want to say, hey, how can we build on that foundation? 1 Corinthians 3, 10 and 11 tells us this. By the grace God has given me, I laid a foundation as a wise builder, and someone else is building on it. But each one should build with care, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one already laid, which is Jesus Christ. We make sure that the things that we do when it comes to vision, that it aligns with who Jesus is. It aligns with what Scripture says church and God's people are supposed to do. We have to remain in alignment with that according to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We want to be able to honor the many giftings within this room. There are so many of you that are so gifted in so many different ways. And we have done the best that we can as long as you're willing to use those giftings for God, for you to be able to do that to help us with the vision. But with helping use your gifts for the vision comes accountability as well. Because it's not just like we're just going to let anybody just go and do anything with this. And so with that, staying committed to continuity, staying committed to innovation says everything doesn't have to look like the way Pastor Bill would do it. Everything doesn't have to look like the way that someone else would do it. Everybody be who you are and who God has called you to be. There's great things that happen whenever we have participation and collaboration from everyone that calls this church home. As people stick around together and as people hang out and as people do life together, it helps our church with vision and mission that much more. It helps those times to connect. I hope that we as a church are connecting with one another. We can't connect with everyone outside of a Sunday morning, but I hope that we're taking time to connect with one another when those opportunities arise. One of the best things that you can do is if someone says, hey, we need to get together. Denise, what happens when you say, we need to get together? We get our calendars out, and I'm like, what are you? Now, for some people, they were just trying to be nice. Well, you ought not say, we need to get together to me if you're just trying to be nice, because we're going to make that happen. And so that was something that I started years back, mostly because I wanted to connect with other pastors. And I would go to something like district council, which I'd leave this afternoon for that, and I'll be gone for the next 2 days, but I'll still be available if you need me via phone. But go there and be like, man, we need to get together sometime. I'm like, when? When are we doing this? And they're like, let me get back to you. They weren't really wanting to connect. They were just trying to be nice. So let's make sure that we're taking those times to collaborate with one another. We have to be committed to maintaining the vision. All of us have to be committed to making this happen. 1 Corinthians 12 through 14 says, just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts from one body, so it is with Christ. For we were all baptized by one Spirit, so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slaves or free, and we were all given one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. It takes all of us to stay committed to the vision of reach, love, and lead. It takes all of us doing our parts. Why does it take all of us? Because whenever all of us are in this together, it prevents drifts. It prevents drifts. Whenever we are saying, hey, I haven't seen so-and-so in a couple weeks, I need to reach out to them. I need to connect with them. I need to reach out and see how things are going with them. Staying committed, using our gifts for that, helps to keep us from drifting and helps to keep us from getting distracted. That just because someone else across town is doing something at their church and that seems to be working, we're not going to be distracted by that if that pulls us away from what the vision is that God has for us. As we use our gifts for the body, it helps prioritize ministries. It helps prioritize us being able to connect with one another, to prioritize ministries based on, first, where does it fit with Reach, Love, and Lead? Secondly, who's committed to leading that vision? And third, is that person doing what they need to do to have someone else fill their role should God call them somewhere else? That's what we want to make sure happens. And as we are doing that, it helps to combat any of those distractions. Not only does it help to prevent drifts, but as we're all using our gifts for Christ, it combats division. Anytime division happens, it happens from within. Now, you may say, well, no, someone came in and stuck their nose in our business. No. Someone opened the door for them. Someone on the inside opened the door for them to come in and stick their nose in your business. It's nothing is divided from the outside. If the church, if our families stay connected, stay on vision, stay on mission, we make sure that we're saying we are not going to be divided by those outside forces. Most of the time, whenever divisions happen within churches, I've seen enough of them to know that most of the time, it's very minor issues. And it typically comes down to this thing called a lack of communication. Amazes me how we want to talk about how God's Word communicates to us and it gives us things and it reveals things to us and all of those things, but yet whenever we have issues in church, we just want people to figure it out. Well, they should know. Oh, is their name Miss Cleo? Do they get paid $3.95 a minute to read minds? I don't think so. But yeah, we don't want to communicate on these things because I don't want to cause offense. I don't want to get them upset. I don't want to cause friction. If that's your approach, then you might as well do this. Because that's what's going to happen. I say this to leadership, I say this to pastors, I say this to my kids, I say this to people. You will never correct what you're not willing to confront. There's no correction possible with it. So we have to be willing to say we're not allowing division and we're going to communicate vision to help make sure that cracks and splinters don't happen. Also, using our gifts provides accountability. We're accountable to one another, for one another, church. Finally, moving forward requires navigating change with grace. Here's the thing. Let me let you in on some news. I don't do everything right. The person beside you doesn't do everything right. The person in front of you and behind you, they don't do everything right. There's faults in all of us. We're going to mess up. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things. But we must choose grace with one another. We must give people. So whenever I got here 6 years ago, first leadership meeting, and many times I've said it since, I said this phrase, and many of the people around that room and people who have heard it over the last 6 years, they heard this phrase, you have permission to fail. Do you know what kind of freedom that is? Now, you don't have the permission to be an idiot. You don't have permission to be lazy. You don't have permission to be unfocused. But we're not going to get everything right. And once we can understand that, man, that brings about a tremendous amount of grace. So moving forward, we're going to have to navigate with grace and say, you know what? Did Pastor really mean what he said when he said that? Or what did he mean when he said that? It would be amazing if you just asked the pastor. It is amazing how things work so much better that way. Because if you ask my wife, it ain't going to work. And hopefully if you ask one another, you're saying, look, that sounds like something you should talk to pastor about. Because I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. How can anybody else know what I'm doing half the time? So let's come and let's talk about it and let's figure those things out. Whenever one of our youth leaders or kids leaders gets a little snippy with your kids at time, find out. Give them grace. What happened? Why did they really do that? Because here's what I say is that people are going to have bad days frequently. Okay? And sometimes we're going to snap at somebody. Sometimes we're going to do something wrong. But it doesn't mean that we love people any less. Just because someone got a little. So go to the leader and ask. Okay? Of course, we want to ask our children what happened. I already know that what they're telling me ain't everything that happened. Okay? I hope we all understand that when our kids tell us what happened, it really ain't everything that happened. We have to communicate with transparency. This was one major thing that I did my best to lead when I first got here, was to say, we are going to be as transparent as we can with anything and everything possible. And when it comes to leading vision and doing those things, we are going to be transparent with the vision. Uh, I I want feedback from our congregation on things that are going on and whenever things are happening. I want feedback to see what we think and how we receive those and where that worked and where that didn't work. But let's be willing to work together to make it better. Don't just come to me and be like, Pastor, you blew it. See you later. No, let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Let's figure it out. Let's do those things there that we need to do. We have to emphasize love and unity together. Ephesians 4, lost my marker. Ephesians 4, 2 through 3, I'll just read off the back. Be completely humble and gentle. Man, it was hard for some of y'all to say that word. Man, be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. We will only deal with church matters in this room and in this body. We will not deal with church matters outside of these four walls. Well, Pastor, why not? Because there's no biblical support of that. Church matters in the New Testament were handled within the church and taken care of within the church. But we're going to do what Ephesians said there. We're going to be patient. We're going to be loving. We're going to seek the Spirit in those things. But most of all, when it comes to moving forward with the vision of Reach, Love, Lead, most of all, we're going to stay committed to God. Proverbs 16:3. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and He will establish your paths. We have to stay committed to God when it comes to this vision of Reach, Love, and Lead. Proverbs 19:21 kind of echoes it as well. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it's the Lord's purpose that prevails. That doesn't mean that we can't have plans. It just simply means that are we going to surrender to what God wants for them? We have to stay committed. If we're going to move forward with this vision of Reach, Love, and Lead, we have to stay committed to God. We have to stay committed to the plan that He has for us. And I know that there are some people in this room who weren't here in March of 2019. There are some people who were in this room in March of 2019. All of us have a responsibility of praying for and carrying out the vision if we call New Life Assembly home. One of the things that will help drive this vision to move forward into greater things than this church has ever seen is the building of personal relationships from us to others to impact the kingdom of God. Of us talking to our coworkers, our neighbors, our friends, family members, discussing with people about who Jesus is and why being committed to Him matters. And as we continue to do that more and to do that more and to do that more, we're going to see God continue to do incredible things. Our measure will not be in attendance. Our measure will not be in finances. Our measure will not be in leaders' capacities. Our measure will simply be, are we doing all that we can to continue moving forward in the vision that God has for this church? And if we as a body or we as an individual aren't doing our parts, we need to really get on our knees before God and say, God, what do I need to do? What's my role to help with this vision? I'm excited for things that we're going to share later today. I'm excited for things that are moving forward for us. I just simply say this. I want as many people as possible to come on this ride of reaching, loving, and leading people as possibly can. As many people in this Collinsville and Owasso and Tulsa County area to be part of this, to lead people, to reach people, to love people. I want to see people understand that when they walk through these doors, that they came for church, but they're going to leave his family. And if for those of us that we were in that meeting, we talked about this word family. Because to some people, the word family, it's ugly. It's not good. Like, they think of family and a lot of bad things come to mind, but we said, well, yeah, but what if they got to see family the way that God intended family to be? And that's what we hope that we have showed some people over the years. And so hopefully you're planning to stick around for lunch with us here in a moment. Hopefully you'll stick around for our annual vision meeting to just hear about things from last year, to read reports from all of our ministry leaders about what God did individually within all of those ministries, and to hear from them what they want to see God do for 2024 into next year. And I think it's an exciting time to be a part of New Life Assembly. Amen. I think it's a great time to be a part of this church, that we're willing to draw the line in the sand on some things, that we're willing to hold people accountable, that we are willing to admit whenever we mess up. But most of all, that we stay committed to God. Can we put that Proverbs 16:3 back up? I just want this to just think about this in the context of our church. That whatever we commit to do for the church, let's commit it to the Lord first. Don't do it for New Life Assembly. Don't do it for the youth leaders. Don't do it for the worship team. Do it for the Lord. Tell people about Jesus, not to get them to come sit in a seat. Tell people about Jesus because they need to know Jesus, and you want to do it for the Lord. Share your testimony with people, not to follow it up with an invite to church, but to follow it up with an invitation to know God Almighty. And if we commit to the Lord in all of these things, if we commit to the Lord, whatever we do, He'll establish the plans. We will begin to think like He thinks. We'll begin to speak like He speaks. We'll begin to love like He loves.